All right, today's training class is on listing presentation. Listing presentation is, in my opinion, one of the three most important things to be successful in commercial real estate. There's like 70 classes in my kind of syllabus, but I would tell you that the three that I repeat the most are lead generation, because without prospects, no matter how you get them, by phone, by email, by buying them, by church, by wherever you get them, from your family, your friends, your networking groups, if you don't have people to work with, you don't have anything, okay? The next is using those leads to set up listing presentations. You have to have listing presentations, and then you have to get good at closing them and beating your competition out. That's part of the reason for the training. And then third is closing. Learning how to close, not just close a listing presentation, but get the deal closed. Ask closing questions. Close when you have a buyer. Know when someone's wasting your time. Closing, those are the three things that it all comes down to. And there's lots of little parts in that, but let's concentrate today on listing presentations. Why go after listings? One reason is buyers are easier to get, and buyers may or may not buy. They might just waste your time. They may never buy. They may never get financed. They just might not be a motivated buyer, and they might just be someone that's on your back burner that you just like send things to once in a while, and when something really, gets their attention, then you go back and put them on the front burner again, okay? But a listing is important because you may not sell it, but that listing can bring you other buyers, okay? When you're cold calling, you have something you can call about that is different than just the normal, do you want to sell? Do you want, whatever, okay? If you're selling a Starbucks, you're selling a Subway sub shop, okay? That is who you call, is you call every owner of Subway sub shops within 100 miles and say, hey, I got a new listing, do you want to buy it, okay? Because they're the most likely people that are interested, okay? Or they know someone who might be interested. So cold calling when you have a new listing is going to help you. The people that respond to your CoStar ad, to your ad on your website, to Crexi, those buyers may not buy your listing, but whatever is off about your listing, you can find something else to replace it. So the buyers that you get from your listing that respond to it, you can sell them something else, okay? And the last thing is that when you have a buyer, it's just you and the buyer, that's it. When you have a listing, you have hundreds of other agents that are out seeing that. They're seeing when we do email blasts. They're seeing it on Crexi. They're seeing it on CoStar. So because we are very good at sharing and co-opting with other brokers, we try to sell the listing ourselves. But if some other agent sells it, we're happy to share a commission with them. So having listings are good every which way. They're going to bring you buyers. You got hundreds of other agents to help you sell, and you can control your destiny a little bit more than just working the buy side. Okay, so just get in a habit, no matter who you're talking to, whether it's cold call, whatever. Whenever you're talking to somebody, always ask them, do you have other properties, okay? Because you're calling them about this apartment building in Van Nuys, and they may or may not want to do anything with that property, okay? So instead of it just being a waste of time, ask them about if they have other properties, because who knows, they might have another property in Calabasas that they would love to get rid of for the right price, okay? And then also, when you're talking to them, ask them a lot of questions that can try to shake something up. Would you sell for the right price? Okay. When's the last time you had the property evaluated? Okay. When's the last time you checked on the value of the property? Okay. Those are all things that you should ask. Do you have other properties is one. Do you know anyone that may be looking to buy or sell? So maybe they don't. Maybe they know a neighbor. Maybe they know someone from church who's talked about selling a piece of vacant land that they've had for years or they inherited and don't know what to do with. So this is a good way to always make sure that you don't leave anything that might be out there. Let's go through some of the steps in the listing presentation. I have like 30 pages here and a handout that I will have on Dropbox, and all you guys, I can email it to you, but I'm just going to do the steps and do an overview for you. To be successful in commercial real estate, you must develop a broad market and knowledge base. You must communicate your knowledge to property owners and then convince them that you are the best person to sell or lease their property. Basically, you are unemployed unless you have a good sellable listing and a workable marketing plan, okay? You must be able to quickly identify the decision makers within an organization to gain their confidence, understand the goals of your customer, and set in motion a plan to accomplish them. You must learn to prepare marketing materials and keep the assignment on your market, and learn to execute a focused, aggressive, and results-driven plan. Okay, so the first thing you need to do, let's say you've been cold calling, you've been emailing, you finally got someone that wants you to go on a listing presentation, okay? The first thing you need to determine is your customer type of business. Are they a developer, investor, family trust, syndicator? What are they? Because that's going to make a lot of difference on how you approach them. What type of business entity? Is it a corporation, partnership, proprietorship, or individual? Each customer has a different agenda. Your job is to determine what they are trying to accomplish with the sale or lease and how much motivation exists with respect to pricing, timing, and our other financial issues. Why does the customer want to sell the property? Okay. Every time my agents would list a property, I'd always say, what's the story? There's always got to be a story behind the property, and you should know not only all the specifics about the property, but you need to know the client and why they want to sell. Because for one, if they don't have a good reason to sell, you could bring them a great offer and they might not be motivated to sell, and you're just wasting your time, marketing money, and everything else. So find out why they want to sell. The daughter inherited the property. She doesn't want the hassle of managing it, and they just want to get the best price they can and split it up among the kids. That's the story. Okay. Does the customer want to sell or lease the property? Your job to be able to tell them the advantages, the pros and cons of both of those. Who's the decision maker? No meeting unless everyone is there or on conference call. Don't waste your time doing a nice proposal, going to a listing presentation, and finding out that it's a partnership and the other partner's not there, so this guy is gonna tell his partner about it and we'll get back to you, and then you go, don't waste your time with that, okay? Even if you do have time to waste for that, don't let them know you do, okay? Because you can pretty much let them know that everyone that's on that partnership, everyone that's an owner, everyone that's a decision maker needs to be there. If not in person, it's so easy to get them on a conference call now, or FaceTime or Skype, okay? So everyone that's a decision maker should be there, because you don't want to do a whole song and dance and then, it not mean anything because the decision maker is not there. And any of this stuff I'm going through, if you guys have questions specific, just raise your hand. We'll, yes?
Didn't want to interrupt you. I have clients that are potentials. I've already talked to them for listing some of their assets, going from multifamily to other types of, commercial or net leases, and they're very anxious about that. But one of the problems that comes up is the prepayment penalty on their existing debt. That's always an issue. I don't have a response other than if there's a real positive upside, you just absorb that as part of doing business. Do you have any thoughts on that? In fact, I'm taking some of the people who are potentially coming to us for loans or whatever, and then telling them, listen, let's not even do that. Let's just, think about exchanging into something that's performed much better, maybe a little bit of TI and have a potential extra NOI at least of stabilize, and you have $1 million plus, you know, and upside gain. And that has worked very well for me. I've got some potentials that are literally forgetting about doing the refinancing, and then we can also pick up the listing if we do a reverse exchange. We can pick up the listing, you know, X amount of time to sell that. So, so that way you get an acquisition and a listing out of something like that. But what do you think about the prepay situation on the ones that have them already?
What's the specifics on the what is the penalty and what type of loan? Was it a hard money loan?
Well, no, they're term loans, but they usually come on a 5-year term. They come with a 4-3-2-1 step down, something like that. So they could have 2% left on it, or 3% left on it, or if we were lucky, maybe 1%. So my argument is, listen, if the overall deal makes sense and you got X amount, you got 7-figure upside, if we have any rent increases, or if we can fill up some vacancies or whatever.
Right. Prepayment penalties.
That's the hardest objection.
They are difficult sometimes, but it's like any other objection in the transaction. You would be able to handle it because you know the loan side. With my regular agents, I would tell them that this is something that the loan officer would be involved with helping you, because they would be able to look at their old loan and see, because I've had occasions where we didn't have to pay the loan penalty if we did the loan with that same bank, or I've even found some where some of those were assumable, okay, where they could just, you know, take over the existing loan and not have the prepayment penalty. So, you know, sometimes you got to be creative, but normally you're just going to price in whatever their hit is and hope that the deal you can find for them will make that not be a deal breaker. So, okay, so who are the decision makers? When will a decision be made? Okay, that's always one that you want to know. What's the timeline? What other financial considerations or commission rates are they their determining factors in selecting a broker? You know, there's a lot of these investment groups or REITs that even down to the commission will be what their margin is and their yield and all these kind of things. So it's like, you know, even multi-billion-dollar companies. We just did a $40 million LOI, and they were like negotiating, you know, 0.25% on the commission side. Like they were trying to get us to do it for 0.75% when our agent, his price is 1%. But they, you know, even though that's nothing to the billions they make, they try to squeeze everywhere they can. Okay, so you got to find out what's important to them. Okay, because sometimes the margins might be minuscule. And the thing is that even though we have a certain percentage we want to make on very large deals, why lose it to the competitor over, you know, a few $1,000s here and there? So, you know, you want to find out. Asking questions is a big thing that agents are afraid to do. They just like go in, they're excited that they get a listing presentation, and they just go and make a pretty package, go and do their spiel, and go. They don't try to close. They don't find out what the competition is, who the competition is, and what they're offering. Because if it's something that we can match or beat, let's know, let's find out so we can do it.
Pardon me. If you were to pick a small range of listing commissions that's competitive right now, that seems to be the sweet spot where you have to be or meet or beat, what do you think that would be percentage on the commission? Just a generic question. With
that depends on the price and the asset class.
Yeah.
But when you're talking like net lease properties that are not much more expensive than homes, 5 to 6%. But normally, what we would do, right? And you know, Will does this a lot. You know, he deals with all the commission stuff, so you know he can back me up on this. But basically, what a lot of what we would recommend is if you're doing a $800,000 you know, restaurant, just the pad for, you know, Jack in the Box or something. If it's 800 grand, $1 million, it's probably going to be a 5, 6. Like it's a 6. If another brokerage sells it, if we sell it in house, we'll do it. We'll give them a discount and do it for 5. 4 or 5, right. So you got to explain that there's got to be some money in there for us to split it with another broker. It's got to be attractive for them, and there's got to be enough in there for us to market it appropriately and all those kind of things.
So for any particular asset class or any scenario, I can reach out to you guys and we can find that sweet spot. Right?
But on a $40 million medical office, 1% is still a big commission.
What about $10 million?
10 million, about 5 million is where you start to graduating. So I would say, go ahead and say. I would say 10 million. If you could get 4, that would be good. But I would say probably 2.5 to 3 is probably good, because then you're splitting 1.5 to 2 on each side. So, what you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Over the last year, I've seen less and less 5 and 6% offered. It's been a lot around 4, even for the $1 to $5 million range.
I've noticed a lot of the 4 is 2% on the selling side.
Yeah, like there's different, but once you go above 10, then you're not going to see as much 4s. You're going to see a lot more 1, 1.25, 1, And here's another thing that you want to sign in here, and I'll have handouts. So you haven't missed too much, but we're pretty much just talking about the why it's important to do. To have listings over just having buyers, and now we're just going into some of the specifics. One difference with commercial that's not as good as residential, okay? With residential, you go on the MLS, whatever that commission's there, that's guaranteed contract. Commercial's not like that. The agents will try to negotiate, the clients will try to negotiate, and they will try to give you as little commission as you will take, okay? So you need to get something in writing, or understand, you need to get an email, some kind of documentation as soon as possible on what your commission is, so they don't try to negotiate it after, but they will try to negotiate it after anyway, okay?
What's the best way to secure that? Other than just an email?
The best way is to deal with brokers that are fair and that are ethical, okay? So there's, like my old company, we mostly focused on the list side. We didn't have that many buyers. But we put it on our website that all our commissions are 50-50 split, okay? Just like most in the MLS, because we wanted to attract other brokers to show our listings and to sell them if we couldn't, okay? So we know the companies that are like that are open to outside brokers. There's some like Marcus and some others, it's like they really don't, they're not going to go out of their way to give you info or whatever. They want to do both ends. They don't really want other brokers to sell for them, so they're not only going to not cooperate that much with you unless it gets old and it's almost expired, and they're also going to try to, they might have a 4% listing, they'll try to keep 3 and only pay you 1. Yeah.
So a compensation agreement is also a way to secure the amount of commission.
On the car side, reform zone.
Compensation agreement.
But even an email, just some kind of documentation, and then when the agents go over a line and start, whatever, then you get me involved, and then I talk to their boss and their broker and all that kind of thing. But if you focus on your own listings, you don't have to worry about that. But if you are showing other people's listings, make sure me and Will tell you the one, because we'll tell you the brokers that are, ethical and aren't going to try to screw you out of your money. Okay. Okay, so the other key ingredients to their decision is tax implications. Like, is this tied to a 1031 exchange? Okay, when you get a listing, you also might have a dual transaction, because once they sell this property, they might not want to pay capital gains tax, they swap into a 1031, and you can actually do the other side. And unlike residential, we can do both sides of the transaction wherever it is in the country, okay? In residential, normally when someone is selling their house here and then buying over in another state, the agent will deal with the sale, but then they refer out to another residential agent in Texas that they're moving to. With us, we actually have the ability to do both sides of the transaction. In another state, we will use a broker of record and pay them, but most investors, it's not an emotional type, transaction where they need to go there, they need to, whatever. It's like, they don't care. They're selling a property here, they want the numbers, okay? So it doesn't matter if we find them the perfect property in Bakersfield, in Northern California, in Washington State, in Texas. Doesn't matter. They have the option to go look at it if they want, but the main thing they want is, what are the numbers? I have a 20-year corporate lease. Okay, this meets my cap. This is perfect for me. This fits into my exchange criteria, okay? So we can do transactions wherever they are.
CoStar nationwide.
We have CoStar nationwide. The office building we're getting is in Chicago. The Goodwill we just sold is in Arizona, right? So it's like, yeah, we're already doing nationwide. So don't let that stop you guys.
It cost me 5% of my commission for a representation in Arizona, so it's about $1,700.
Because a lot of my commercial clients are nationwide.
Yes,
Yep.
there you go. And we are going to build up our own broker's licenses in-house so that we don't have to pay those outside brokers. But until then, it's not an issue to do them. But I also have a license in Florida. We have some other, so we're gonna concentrate more on the West Coast. We seem to do more in Arizona and Washington State and stuff. But Okay, so what other properties might impact their decision? So find out if the property was listed before, if it's an expired listing or it was listed but didn't sell. There might be some exclusives that they have with their prior broker. Like there might be some clients that the prior broker showed, and we want to make sure that if that person pops up on your list, that it's a known thing, because the old broker might be owed a partial commission. Okay. All right. So here's some of the things to ask when you're on a, like I told you guys, I got a 25, 30-page packet from here. I want to cover the main things that you should always go over when you're in any listing presentation. And when we get in the meeting, we should probably put everything on vibrate, and then if you get a client, you can always go out, because business is first. But
I'm sorry, quick question. On CoStar, for a listing presentation, for valuation, listing market rents, there are good analytics, sub-market reports on CoStar for the subject, for sub-market, for market. Sometimes they're accurate and sometimes they're not. You can always cross-reference them with the client. But are those reports, those PDFs that you can print out, market rents, sub-market and market analytics, they're very extensive with all of the trends and so forth. Are those adequate enough, or do we have any other tools in the toolbox for that listing presentation, the one-on-one listing presentation? Because the analytics in CoStar are really, really good, especially the market and sub-market. Most of the time they're accurate. Sometimes you have to compare it with the rental operating statement to make
okay,
sure.
so the packages are done by Will. So basically, when you get someone, Will put a nice package together for you, but it's always good if you could supply any additional comps that are important. But I would say CoStar is the most accurate of any of the platforms. I would say the only weakness CoStar has is apartments, multifamily.
Mm-hmm.
They're good at it, but there is other platforms and other ways for multifamily.
Just for fun, what do you use to pull up the...
We also have another website for rental comps for multifamily.
What do you use?
Rentometer is dedicated for rent surveys.
Okay. Better than what's available on CoStar?
I believe so.
Okay.
very accurate.
Yeah. And Crexy is up and coming also.
Yeah.
And there is, there's other platforms but CoStar
You
would.
can help me with
Oh, yeah,
basically.
yeah. We definitely can do those, but a good comps is very important, but in commercial, it's not as important. The rent and the income is the main thing you need to make
Yeah.
sure that you have down. But we're gonna have a nice presentation that everyone else is gonna have, and it's gonna show, all of the demographics around there, and what's the shopping corridor, and what's the freeway, all those kind of things. So basically, that is the point, is that you're not gonna just be the only one there. You're gonna be up against a guy from Marcus and Millichap. You're gonna be up against someone from JLL and Keller Williams Commercial and Cole Banker. And if you don't know what you're doing, they're gonna kill you. They're gonna get it, okay? It's whoever they feel the most confident. Who is gonna be able to make me money? Who's gonna be able to do the job? That's what they're thinking in their head. So if it's not you, it's because you didn't convince them you were, okay? What other brokers are you meeting? What other brokers are you meeting with? I always ask that because I want to know, am I the first, the last? If I'm the last, that's perfect. Well, who else have you seen? What commission did they offer? What did they, they're all going to offer CoStar, Crexy, they're all going to say the same things. It's who does it better with the most confidence and who listened to what they're aiming for, okay? They care about themselves. They care about what you can do for them, okay? So if they get the impression that you're just after a commission for yourself and not looking out for them, you're gonna lose. Gets on pricing, like what do they think it's worth? What did you come up with, and why did you come up with a different price than them, and can you explain that to them, okay? Some investors think their property is worth more because their property is special. Okay, you don't get as much as you do in residential, but you still will get that. Okay, so let them explain to you, and then you better have some data to back up why you don't think it's worth the price. Because
I'm sorry, why don't you finish that off?
some brokers will price the property low so it's easy for them to sell so they can get their commission. So don't be scared to take one a little bit more, as long as you get the seller to agree to come down to your price if it doesn't get any action within a few weeks. Okay, go ahead.
I had a situation that I'm trying to secure the listing, actually, an old client of mine, and Marcus had promised him at a high price, higher than market, and we looked at it from the debt side and we said that you're off about $3 million. That's not gonna happen. So he decided to take his chance anyway, and 3 months later he came back because you were right.
Yeah.
We couldn't do that. So how often does that become an issue where they actually go higher?
It happens a lot, but where's the property?
LA.
Where?
Don't remember. I got
Okay.
pictures.
If there was a property that was off by that much and it was in the middle of nowhere, I probably wouldn't take it. But if it's on a main street and that having my sign on a nice property, I'd probably take it, because eventually it might come up, or I could get other buyers off of that. So just, you gotta think, is it worth taking? Is it
It's
gonna?
worth 1.5. Marcus was hitting him up for 1.8, so he went with that.
Yeah,
But again,
that's
we
not-
lost 2-3 months,
Yeah.
and then came right back around because the buyer on the other side would have.
But it's called buying a listing or taking an overpriced listing. As long as they understand that I think it's worth less, you think it's worth more, I'll go ahead and put it at your price, but we're gonna come and meet in the middle, or we're gonna come to my price after a month or two. Do you agree with that? Because for one, the market's the one that dictates what a property is worth anyway, right? Not them, not us. But why lose it out to your competitor? Because the thing is that if that Marcus guy had gotten the client to agree to lower the price, he might have sold it. You never know. But at least he got the listing. That's what you want. You want to get the listing. You don't want to lose it for something like that. So, once you get so busy that you have 2 assistants, then you can worry about only taking, perfectly priced listings. But for now, you know, if you got to take an overpriced one once in a while, let's do it. Okay. Ask them, why do they think it's worth that price? Well, I just did a bunch of rehab, or it's worth, you know, the market, it's under market rent, you know, whatever. Ask them a lot of questions like that. They're going to be from Marcus, they're going to be from JLL, they're going to talk about how big they are and what they do. That's great. So then you go and talk about how we have 11 companies, we've been here for 30 years, we own a building, you know, so you just, the same kind of thing that they're going to do to build their brand, you should know all the different entities, bring your brochures, that, you know, talk about all the things that we have in-house, but then you tell them, I know you probably have your own lender, you probably might have a relationship with an exchange company, but because we have all the entities together, we definitely have the best service, but I bet if we compare price on insurance or whatever, I bet we can beat it. I mean, what businessman wouldn't at least want to compare to see if they're, you know, if we can beat their price?
Question, if they're currently sub-market rents, do you want to list it at that price and get it listed and get it going right away? Or do you want to, if it's feasible, to quickly do a rent increase if they're month to month, or if you're able to do that, and then just go for a higher price based on the market rents? Based on the
Normally you
rents?
do 2 pro formas
Yeah.
based on what it is now and what it could be at market, but when you're dealing with apartments, most times it's better to sell it as is, because
As is.
there's lots of investors that will not buy unless there is upside.
Upside, yeah.
They don't want it once it's been rehabbed, and you know, they want to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So this goes here. Role play before the meeting, okay? Don't practice on a client, because they're going to beat you, because you shouldn't be practicing on clients. We should be practicing, or with your senior or with Will, before you go in that, because you're going to be more confident, but we're also going to come up with 2 or 3 tips and say, oh, maybe if you said it this way, or if you ask this, it'll be stronger. Because the stronger, more confident you are, the better you're going to do. If this goes along with this, you can also bring, if you're a new agent, you might be working with a senior agent out there, you can bring them on the listing appointment. You can bring Will, you can bring myself, okay? And you bring me, I'm not part of your deal, I'm not trying to get some of your commission, that's not how it works. And you don't, and I'm not gonna try to make it look like I got all the experience and you don't know anything, but you know, so I'm here with, you know, it doesn't work that way. You say, you know, I'm gonna bring my broker along, he's done like, you know, dozens of these multifamily deals, you know, in the same area, and when you get me, you get the team. So that's kind of how you push it. And eventually you have your own track record and you don't need to bring me or Will, but the first time or two, it's okay, okay? It's okay, it's, you know, for big deals, you can actually bring, you know, May from Escrow Hub. I mean, you can bring other members of our team. In fact, it didn't work out as an appointment, but if we went and did a presentation at your church, we were going to bring like the insurance, we were going to bring 2 or 3 just to like, you know, be more impressive, but show them what we bring to the table. So I'm not saying that we can do that on every little $600,000 listing you have, but if it's a decent sized deal, we can bring in some of the other members of Peak to help you build credibility and help you close the deals. Yeah, it's definitely, you know. And then there's also a lower level with these guys. Amir's doing a reverse 1031, so we got our 1031 guys involved with the clients right off the bat, so it doesn't have to be in person, because some of these people are busy. They, you know, email is the way they prefer to do business. So he's already, you know, in doing, you know, emails and building relationships. So I probably 99% sure that when the deal goes through, that's probably who we're going to use. They're probably not going to all of a sudden, you know, get all this info from our exchange company and then go with another, you know, at the last minute because they're $10 less or something. You know, it doesn't usually work that way. So the steps of listing are: first you get the lead, Then you're gonna do a really good evaluation and market analysis for them that pretty much is everything about the property and everything about how we're gonna market the property and about us and about you, okay? Then you're gonna practice, or you're gonna bring us, and we're gonna set up a listing presentation. And in that listing presentation, you're going to talk about the good and bad of the property. You're gonna talk about the area, the asset class, and you're gonna show them that you're the expert on the market. And you do that by research, okay? So basically, CoStar, Westside Rentals, Crexy, Google. You're gonna you're gonna want to know everything that's going on in that area and what might be going on, okay? If there's gonna be a transit stop, that's something that is in the equation. So basically, don't let any of these guys bring up something that you don't know about and you don't talk about, okay? Because who's gonna win is who they feel most confident is gonna be able to sell their property at their price. And you also have to look at, don't look at transactions, don't look at commissions, don't look at deals. Look at these investors as a long-term relationship, okay? So talk to them like an investor and let them know, hey, I don't, just want to do one deal with you. So I'm not gonna, these guys are charging you 5%. I'll do it for 4 if that gets your business, because I'm not greedy. I want to do long-term. I know you have other properties. If you're a repeat client, I'm not going to try to gouge you, so I mean, be smart about it. This is a business transaction. If giving half a point off is going to get you the deal, do it, okay? I mean, it's kind of like, you don't want to be used car salesman, what do I need to do? But you also need to ask for the sale, find out what your competition is offering, and if you can match it, great. Like, you might want to not want to do it for 1% like they offered, because that's nuts. But, if it's reasonable, at least say, well, let me call my broker and see what he thinks. Okay? All right, questions?
As far as signage, what is the relationship to the agents as far as cost basis, availability, timeline?
For the timeline, it's gonna be about 4 days from the day of order. We use generic signs that have the Peak Commercial name and house phone number. If you wanna pay for 50% of the sign, you can customize it to have your name or number on it. But we also allow for writers, so you can put your name on the sign as well.
I used to bring listing presentation all filled out, and I had signs in my trunk. I would close a listing right then and there, and my sign would be in the window, even while we're waiting to get the nice big banner or the yard, whatever. It's like, I had a yard sign as soon as it was signed, right then and there, if they were ready to do it right then and there.
We have signs.
So you're saying the basic signs are gratis, or those free?
The ones that are just
Oh,
Peak
really?
Commercial, yeah, but you want to have your name, and your contact info also. So you should have some signs that are yours, or at least riders that go
We
on
can have
our
our
sign.
own riders
Yeah.
and put
Yeah.
those on there.
Yeah. Right.
That's fantastic, great to know,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah, but signage is not as important in commercial on some properties. On a prime property sitting on Ventura Boulevard, signage is great because it can get you that's why even if, you see some of these same signs up for years and years, that broker could care less if that property sells or leases because they're getting so many other calls and buyers from that sign. Yeah. So brokers take overpriced listings all the time. I mean, you could have a seller that wants $5 million more of their property. If it's on a prime, take it. And eventually, maybe 10 years from now, they'll get it.
Do we have the total latitude as far as commissions to move that number? Do we need to consult, say, with you before we do that? Like, say, typically it's a 5, but we can just go and say 4, we'll do it, and basically if that's a deal, or is that something that we need to clear up front?
If you're going from 5 to 4, that's fine. But if you're going from 5 to 2, then it'd be good to at least run it by me. But the fact is that you guys all have your own business. But if it's a $600,000 property and you go down to 2, it's not going to sell because the other side is not going to. So
Not gonna move.
you have to convince your seller that it's worth it to pay more. That they get what they pay for. And we're not a discount brokerage. We're full service, and there has to be something on the other side because brokers decide what their clients see. And if there's 10 properties around there, they're not going to show the one that's 1 if the others are 3 around there. Just not realistic. They're not going to.
So question, where do we get these signs?
Hmm?
Where do we
You,
get these
you
signs?
can order the signs through me.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's an order, we order.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
And these are like the window signs, but there's also big signs. I mean, signs are going to depend on the size of the property. I mean, an office building or a small little, whatever is different than a huge building where you need a banner or you need a, there's a big Peak wooden sign out front. That's a lot
So
different.
basically, these signs attached to the building,
Or they could be in front, like on a corner. It just depends. But
oh, like in residential, like.
no, they're not going to be like residential signs.
If you say
Have you
it's on
seen the big
corner,
Peak sign out front? That's like as big as a piece of plywood. It's like
Yeah.
4 by yeah.
More
it's
like that.
Yeah.
So right now we have 4x6 big large signs, and those would be great for industrial or retail spaces, office buildings. Typically, most apartment complexes do not put for sale signs in front.
Yeah.
Because it scares tenants.
Yeah, with the commercial, some they don't want a sign. It's CoStar and whatever. But if it's a great location, but there's also if you got a small retail, you can use one of the 24 by 24 and just put it in a window until the sign gets located, but it'll still get you something. Yeah.
Would it be possible to order a couple signs to have in the trunk so then when situations come up?
Everything is possible.
Yeah, I just think it'd be
Yeah, of course.
because of the time frame, you know
Yeah,
what I
and,
mean?
and the signage that you use is going to depend on what you're selling, but yeah, definitely like multifamily. Definitely, they don't like signage. Yeah, so multifamily. In fact, multifamily is the one that, well, even some industrial, but there's a lot of commercial where they don't even want it in the MLS. They don't, they want it to be a pocket listing, and they want you to sign a NDA, a confidentiality agreement, before you even give the details, like the address and all that stuff. It's like, and some in multifamily, sometimes you don't even get to see the inside until it's like way past like LOI stage. So everything is different. Other questions? No. Okay. Thanks, guys.